What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the trailer of the Buena Vista Boys, a podcast about old school Disney live action films, which is very, very niche, I must admit, but we're here anyway. My name is Jason, and with me for this adventure is my co-host, Matt.
Hey, what's going on? Very excited to be here.
Yeah, me too, man. This is our first episode, which isn't really our first episode. It's just kind of like a trailer episode, I suppose. I wanted to sit down and give the people an idea of what we're about on this show, like what to expect, and hopefully leave everybody with a sense of profound knowledge acquisition. Maybe. I don't know.
A lot of powerful buy-in for the season to come.
Yeah, exactly. So, Matt, you want to tell the lovely people what our format is here on the Buena Vista Boys,
absolutely.
Please?
So what our show is like is we watch the movies and then we run down the entire movie that we watched. And then we kind of go through some of the history of the production. We found like ties back to the park, like people who've worked in the park, who worked on the movies. And, you know, we do some really great sound clips to kind of keep you involved in the storyline. There's nothing worse than just hearing people jabber on without any actual tangible sound or anything to go along with what's happening.
Especially with a movie podcast, I always find it hard to listen to people describe visuals.
Yes.
It's a challenge. So with this, we pull clips. We talk about the movie we watch. We pull clips, sound clips, so you guys at home can hear along and at least get some sort of, invested interest into what we're talking about.
Yeah, and I think it really helps. I like the way you cut the clips. They're kind of a nice length. So it's like, it's not just a couple of words. You really kind of get a lay of what's going on in the scene. That's really good. And we have a lot of movies coming up. Shaggy Dog, we already did. It's in the can. I can't wait for you guys to hear that. I thought that was a really good one. Hot Lead, Cold Feet. Also, Moon Pilot coming up. We've got Watcher in the Woods coming for our Halloween show. And then we're going to close out this season with Babes in Toyland. Lots of movies in between there. And it's going to be a really fun ride. And we're going to do seasons of this show. So we're going to do 10 for this season. And then, we plan on a season 2 where we're going to pick another crop of 10. We're not doing them in order of release or anything. We're kind of going with a gut feeling between the both of us, like what sounds fun, what we'd like to share with people.
Yeah, exactly. Like the Shaggy Dog, the first one. So, for those of you who have listened to this episode, the Shaggy Dog and Hot Lead Cold Feet are out already. So if you haven't done so, you can go and grab those and get them queued up. But the Shaggy Dog was out in like 57, I think it was.
59. 59.
Okay. Hot Lead Cold Feet, I think was late 60s.
Yes.
And then our next one, like you mentioned, is Moon Pilot, which was 1962. So yeah, we definitely kind of go all over the calendar there.
I know. I'm hoping for a lot of mid-century themes in there, a lot of martinis, a lot of like white dinner jackets, like if they dress up.
I think it'd be great. And neither of us have seen this movie.
Yeah.
Yeah. So here's the plot, by the way, of Moon Pilot, just to kind of tease everybody. Away on a short leave before an upcoming moon launch, a NASA astronaut disappears and is feared kidnapped when the security services learn about his friendship with a suspected foreign female spy.
Oh, yeah.
And that's the IMDb, official plot designation, which sounds cool. I love a spy movie.
Yeah.
I don't think I've ever really seen a Disney spy movie, especially in 1962. And this movie sort of goes along with the Disney companies and Walt in general kind of vision of moon stuff. They were really forward thinking and producing content about space and about the moon.
Yeah.
I'm forgetting A Trip to the Moon, I think is what it is. It was like a short that Ward Kimball was in charge of. Famously, Ward Kimball was the man who designed Tomorrowland and Disneyland. And he just sort of like worked with a lot of people at NASA and developed these little shorts in this movie about how it would be living in space, big space station.
And then Tomorrowland already had a ride, right? Like by this point, they already had the Trip to the Moon ride.
Yeah, because Disneyland opened in like 55 or whatever. And but it was, I think, a couple months before the park opened, and Walt goes, hey, we should probably do something about Tomorrowland.
Yeah.
And that's why we got things like the Bathroom of Tomorrow. It just doesn't really, who cared?
The Hall of Chemicals.
So this kind of stuff, the moon pilot, I'm expecting sort of that late term fascination with the moon.
Yeah.
I think that'll be fun.
I'm expecting a lot of generals huddled around some sort of map, ladies with very big hair and lots of eyeshadow.
Oh, that'd be awesome. I think that'd be great. And then the one after that is going to be the computer wore tennis shoes. And, based off of the name alone, that's a yes for me. That's going to be a yes for me, dog. I'm going to watch it. It is that was made in 1969. And here's the official plot. At Medfield College, an accident with a donated computer gives Dexter Riley the ability to remember any knowledge learned instantly and perfectly.
And you have Kurt Russell and Cesar Romero in this movie.
By the way, Kurt Russell at this age, he looks puffy. He looks very weird. And now, as he's aged, he looks a little more evened out, a little more, a little more cutesy, very demure. But looking at his stupid face in these stills, it's like, that guy looks weird, man. Well, he's just a weird looking kid.
It's because he's like a human puppy dog, right? Like it really is. Like,
remember
he's got
pound puppies? Remember those pound puppies? He's a pound puppy. That's what he is, with the big dopey eyes and the cheeks,
cuddly face. Like there's that the Disney special when the Osmonds come to Disneyland, and Kurt Russell is sort of the de facto narrator of that special.
Okay,
and the whole thing culminates in them going to the Haunted Mansion, and it's basically a giant commercial for Disneyland, but specifically to talk about the Haunted Mansion's opening.
Oh, yes, yes.
Yeah, it's so interesting to see Kurt Russell as basically this weird little teenager. Yeah, he's like a dopey little dork. I'm not gonna lie, like
he's so good, dude.
Snake Plissken is so many years away. So it's gonna be great to see him in that. And for a lot of people, I don't know if they knew that this was the start of a trilogy of movies. I remember the computer wore tennis shoes. I didn't remember future movies that we're gonna watch, which is like The Strongest Man in the World and Now You See Me, Now You Don't. All take place at Medfield College and with Dexter Riley.
Okay.
And each one is something strange happened to Dexter Riley, and the Cesar Romero character wants to steal whatever is making him superpowered and make money from it.
See, he's one of those people, those movies, generally either trilogies or like TV series, TV shows, right?
Yeah.
Where you have the one friend that everything happens to, and he always goes to his other friends and go, hey, can you help me out or whatever? Why would you be friends with this person? This person is complete drama. Yeah. There's nothing good about, like, you know what I mean? He's just, oh God, we got to go bail Dexter. He's glued himself to the moon again or whatever it is, right? 15 hawks have carried him away. We got to go find him. There's always something going on. Leave me alone, Dexter.
The son of a bitch has microwave hands. I'm not going near him.
Yeah, I need to study. I need to graduate. Just go away.
Right.
I'm trying to figure out how to, drop my car or whatever.
I know. And stop being like best friends with like a 72-year-old professor. Like, knock it off. Right. Just
touch grass. Kid.
Get a
That's
gal.
what the kids would say. Yeah. So we watch the movies. We read the plot. We listen to a few clips from it. And then we drop facts. So, of course, we're not watching a movie today, Matt. But I do have a bunch of general facts that I would like to go through that I found really interesting. And I think might be fun just to kind of lay some groundwork for not only our namesake, but just, I don't know, have fun with.
Yeah. Yeah. Listen, just because it's a trailer doesn't mean we come empty handed.
That's right.
It's entertainment first.
That's right. It's a fully furnished
boys.
Yeah, we're furnished.
Yeah.
Okay. The first. Well, here, let me ask you this, Matt. Let me jump into this. Do you know what the first live action Disney movie was?
I was looking this up.
Oh, okay.
On the way here. It is Treasure Island.
That's correct. Treasure Island. I believe it was 1950.
Oh,
which is a long time ago.
Yeah.
So it was Disney's first. Now it's really important. It's their first all live action movie. They've been playing with live action sequences in movies for a while now. You had The Reluctant Dragon in 1941, which I don't even think I really heard about.
Yeah.
And of course,
Alice shorts.
Oh, well, that's true. Yeah. And of course, everyone's favorite edge of their seat thriller, The Song of the South in 1946.
Yeah.
I will never reject an opportunity to say how boring Song of the South is. They could just cut out all that live action parts, leave all of that cartoon stuff in, and you would have a much better movie, and probably one that could withstand a lot of the cultural touch points that aren't appropriate these days.
Certainly
you know
more marketable.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. But both of those movies were sort of mixed with animation, of course, Song of the South being the more prominent of the two. And judging from Song of the South, the animation is sort of what saved them because, again, as a film, Song of the South was truly in every way awful, boring, acting terrible, except Hattie Williams was obviously great. And the person who played Uncle Remus was great too. But otherwise, no, I'd rather, super glue my eyes closed than watch that again. So they had a lot of success doing live action. Disney then started working on his nature documentaries with the release of the little movie called Seal Island in 1948, that was the sort of first touch point for the amazing true life adventure series of animal documentaries.
Yeah.
Which I don't know if you've seen those. I've seen some of those. They're great.
I haven't. I think the closest I get is anything that was on Disney's like Wide World of Color. Mm-hmm. If there was some sort of animal bit in one of those, I've probably seen it, but just animal documentaries from the early 50s. I never got into them.
All right. That's fair.
I'm sure they're great.
Yeah. So apparently Walt started working on Treasure Island when post-war restrictions stopped him from transferring profits from his cartoons out of the United Kingdom. Rather than setting up a brand new animation studio, he used the profits and existing facilities over in the UK to produce a conventional film. The movie, Treasure Island, was filmed in England, not the West Indies, using Disney's frozen UK profits.
Oh.
So it was very much kind of like a post-war time baby.
Yeah.
It's like, well, I can't do anything with them. I might as well spend all that money here, pretend that the UK is the West Indies, and make a film. Why not? What a great businessman, I swear to God.
He knew how to spend money to make money. Absolutely.
He really did, yeah. Well, to that point, this thing made just over $4 million worldwide at the box office, which would be about $52 million today.
Yeah.
Which isn't bad, I think, really.
No, I think that's perfectly fine. Like, because he couldn't, were you saying that basically he couldn't do anything else with the money? The money couldn't come home. So it's like, you might as well make something.
The way I imagine it is, of course, I don't have super detail. It's probably a whole book, to be honest with you. But I would imagine it's in a bank account in the UK. You can't transfer the money over to your bank account in America. So it has to stay in the UK. You might as well use it rather than just sit on it.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, I think that's great. And then the material probably at the time was probably fair use, right? Treasure Island at that point?
I would guess, yeah.
Yeah.
So
I
would guess.
You already have this pre-created story that people already are well aware of. You have this money you're not doing anything with, and you've never done a live action before. And so it seems like the cost benefit analysis was right on point.
Yeah, right. Another fact I learned about Treasure Island was that it was probably where we get the impression of the pirate to go, "Arr."
Very likely.
Yeah, from this movie, from the act. Forget the guy who played I forget the guy who played the lead in Treasure Island, but he was the one that was that kind of. There wasn't really a whole lot of pirate representation in movies back then, and so this was such a connection point to audiences that from this movie forward, every pirate says "arr" and it speaks like that, which I thought was pretty neat.
Yeah, and like when you look at the poster, so this 1950, and you have him in the tricorner hat.
Yeah.
You have the bird on his shoulder, the giant red parrot. Yeah. He's got the sword and the huge coat, the red coat. And it's like, this guy is right out of Pirates of the Caribbean, the ride.
Central casting. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
But that's the thing. They basically created that image of a pirate. I think it's neat.
Yeah, I can see that.
So Disney had kind of wanted to shift into live action previously, and the success of Treasure Island convinced the company to sever its ties with other distributors like RKO and United Artists and form Buena Vista Film Distribution in 1953. Also, a dispute with RKO Pictures in 1953 over the distribution of The Living Desert, which was Disney's first full-length film within that true life adventure series, kind of didn't hurt either, Yeah. They want to do this anyway. RKO gave them some guff about distributing Living Desert. It's like, you know what? We're going to do it ourselves because that's sort of what Disney did. If nobody else can do it for him, gosh darn it, he's going to figure out a way to do it. And he did it.
They're like, oh, you said no? Oh, yeah, no, that's perfectly fine. That's reasonable. We'll just
I guess we'll throw
pack
this
up
away.
our ball and go home.
Yeah. And that's also another key too. Don't say no to the Disney company. I mean, I guess now you can't really, they just do it all in-house anyway, but especially back then, it's like, don't say no because they're going to go ahead and do it. So you're going to cut yourself out.
I know. And it's weird there because it's hard to understand their status at that time. Like in 1950, how powerful was the Disney company? They had a lot of successes, of course, but it's like it's hard to understand where they were in the pecking order at that time in real life, because we're experiencing them now. And even, and you and I, like through the 90s and the 2000s, where they were, how powerful they were. But it's like in the 50s, I mean, obviously there were a lot of people when Disneyland is 5 years away and people are like, this will never work.
Well, yeah, for sure. The things that I like to mention is there were only, like when we talk about numbers and how popular something was, especially for like movies or whatever, going back to how much Treasure Island made. It only made $52 million in today's money. So $4 million back then, which doesn't sound like a lot in today's money, right? Mm-hmm. But there were about 158 million people in the US at the time.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and I feel like population density, I suppose, is the term. It has to play a role in how we talk about movies in the past and how well they did and how popular they were and how profitable they were. I mean, 158 million people, that's not that many. I mean, now there's 330, I think is something like what we think it is.
I would say at least. Yeah.
So to your point, like for Disney to be probably the most recognized brand in the world at that time, probably still now, but whatever. With a third less people in the country, maybe something like that, whatever math is.
Yeah.
That's wild. That's just, I mean, I think it puts it even to a wider perspective.
I know. Well, and not to belabor the point, but it's like, also, you think, okay, you just gave the numbers of how many people are even in the country. And then you're looking at, okay, what was the release spread of Treasure Island? And then on top of that, it's a movie about pirates. That's a very niche story. I know it's a very popular book. I get it, but it's still a very niche style of story.
Yes.
And so it's grown men looking for treasure with a little boy. And so it's like, how many people in the country even want to go see a movie like that? To get the amount of money it did is still pretty great.
The average cost of a movie ticket back then was 46 cents.
Ooh.
In 1950. So what's the math? What's 46? What is it divided by 4 million, whatever that is? I mean, how many tickets is that? Anyway, that's the kind of thing where it's like, that's how many people saw this movie.
Sounds like if I do the math, I bet we're going to find out every single person in the country saw this movie at least once.
At least twice. Yeah, right. And if I do it, negative people saw it. All this information sort of got me thinking about where we are today as far as the company and all the movies they produced, right? Like I wondered how much money that Disney's move to live action movies has made them over the years. There's no real way to figure that out unless I've sat through. Yeah. So by my math, Disney has made 313 live action or photorealistic. It's what they call like the CGI remake live action ones, like Jungle Book or whatever.
Yeah.
Photorealistic, movie, which, I guess that's true. So that's up through 2021. Now I tried to find out how much these 313 movies have made for the company. And it was too much data for me. Like I'm not really a numbers guy. I don't do well thinking about numbers or math or anything like that. Give me a color and I'm good. But a number, I don't even know how old I am anymore. But I managed to find out, I was on Chat GPT going, hey, how does this? And then they're like, well, you got to actually look for it yourself, dude. What are you, dumb?
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh yeah, kind of I am. So I literally go, one of my prompts was, how do I make you figure this out for me? It's like, whatever.
I like it when you push Chat GPT's functions back on itself and you're like, why aren't you better at this?
So it was too much data, but I did find out how much the company has made overall, which combined animated and live action.
Okay.
And this does omit a few movies like the aforementioned Treasure Island for some reason. It was not on this list. So some of the live action movies are off, but fuzzy math aside, I did find it to be pretty interesting. So from 1937 with Snow White, to 2024 with Inside Out 2, that's about 676 movies, combining both domestic and international box offices. The Walt Disney Company has made approximately.
I'm going to guess $68 trillion.
Yeah, well, okay. You're close. 112 billion,
Okay.
801,737,007
Nice.
Yeah. And to figure that out, not only did I, do some digging on the internet, but I also found a website that will convert numbers to words for you, because I was trying to read 112,801,737,007. And I'm going, that's too many commas, dude. I gotta someone write this out. And I found a website. So God bless the internet today.
I found a calculator to do this equation just now, and it said enough. They've made enough.
Yeah. I mean, that is such a huge, unbelievably massive number.
Yeah.
I love it. And of course, it's, probably not, it's the minimum, right? That's the minimum, because there are movies that aren't included in here, but I thought it was fun.
Oh, and they're documentaries. I was wondering, does this include like all those documentaries you were just talking about?
Oh, I don't think so, because I think that they were for TV.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's a different pile.
Yeah. The studio has released 4 films that have received an Academy Award for Best Picture nomination. And I thought it would have been more than that. That kind of surprised me how few. It was Mary Poppins in 1964.
Yeah.
Beauty and the Beast in 1991. Up in 2009, and Toy Story 3 2010. On April 25th, 2007, Disney discontinued the usage of the Buena Vista brand in its distribution branding and moved towards Walt Disney Studios Motion Pictures.
Ugh. Disgusting.
So that brings us sort of full circle. That's where we get our name from. Buena Vista Boys, because that's all we're doing. We're watching movies from the 50s through, we haven't really set a cap. Because there looked like there were some fun movies in the 80s that we could potentially cover, maybe on Patreon. I don't know. We'll figure out. We have a whole bunch of ideas, but what we want to focus on now, I think, is like 50s through 70s. I don't think we'll push into the 80s yet.
I would say anything that goes past Witch Mountain era, I let's not touch, because then we start getting like back around into them remaking like That Darn Cat in like 1996 and everything. And no, thank you.
Yeah. Which we could do eventually at some point, just for funsies, a quick episode on Patreon. Why not?
Yeah, I definitely think that's like a weird, like we have a series, like we have a season where we fall into like a black hole. And we're like the anti Buena Vista Boys. We take on these whole different characters and we watch these really bad 90s remakes.
See, there you go, man. So if you're wondering who we are, what gives us the credence to, or the credentials, I suppose, to come in here and blather on about Disney movies. My name is Jason, and since 2013, I have had a Disney podcast, specifically Disneyland focused. It's called Ears Up, Ears with a Z. Because back in 2013, that was the cool thing to do. I thought, let's instead of S's, let's put Z's, and that'll be fun for everybody. And the other people on the show were like, eh? And I just did it. And then I think everyone got mad, but that's fine. So you can go to earsup-podcast.com, which is where this podcast will live, but it'll have its own RSS feed, whatever. We have like 6 different shows over there. We also have a Patreon. So if you want to support this show, if you end up liking it a lot, you can go to patreon.com/earsup, ears with a Z, of course, and subscribe to us. We have a bunch of Disney content over there. There's other shows like Puny Pod, which if you're into Marvel, they just do Marvel stuff. If you're into other Disney movies, there's Scraping the Vault. If you like people arguing about which park is better, Disney World or Disneyland, you have the Supreme Resort. There's a bunch of content over there. And then on Patreon, they give you a lot of bonus episodes as well, too. And if you're already a Patreon subscriber, then you've already gotten you've already gotten advanced access to our 2 Buena Vista Boys episodes. So we'd like to drop a lot of cool little nuggets over there on Patreon. So, check it out.
I'm Matt, and I've been going to the parks since I was about 1 year old. Really started ramping it up when I became an adult, and about 2005. I've been trying to go like at least a couple times a year. And so I'm just really interested, kind of like Jason, in the living history museum that is like the Disney park. And I grew up on a lot of Disney. I think I was just at my parents' house, and my mom probably owns every single white clamshell VHS that Disney pulled out of the vault. All the animated for sure.
Nice.
And then a ton of the live action. But there's like so many of these live action movies that I've never seen. And so the opportunity to like have a reason to actually watch them and see what this whole like kind of mystery era of Disney was about is very cool. I have my own podcast that I started not too long ago with my friend Andy, and we kind of like recap pop culture things from our childhood. We're both 80s and 90s kids. And so we sort of wanted to come together and have a show where we just kind of really indulge in like things that we liked as younger people. And it seems like a lot of people in my age bracket, there's so much stress going on in the world, and like, jobs as we get older get harder. And so we just wanted a place where people can go to like listen to things that they like and almost feel like they're having a conversation with us about those things too.
Yeah.
And I feel like this is kind of an extension of that. Like I get to learn a new thing with you watching shows we've never seen and then talk about how cool they are. And then other people get to sort of watch those movies as well and listen to us and kind of have their own thoughts about it.
Don't forget to mention your podcast name.
Oh yes.
Knucklehead.
I'm really bad. I'm really bad at plugging myself. So our show is called Shelter from Oblivion. Don't let the name fool you. It's just sort of like a riff on like, how hectic the world can be. And like, we've kind of created a space where you can kind of come down and just chill out.
Nice.
You can find our shows. We're about to post a 7th show on all the places like the Spotify's and the Podbeans and I think Apple and Google, all that.
All right, everybody, that's it. We are going to get out of here. Thank you very much for checking out our little trailer episode. And go tackle Shaggy Dog. Go tackle Hot Lead Cold Feet. If you like that kind of stuff, then subscribe. Like I said, drop us a review. That could help as well. Come in. We have a Discord that'll be in the show notes for everything. We have a whole bunch of different ways to communicate with us and join the little community we have built up. So it's a lot of fun, and we look forward to doing these movies with you. So until next time, we'll see you.